I am Marwan Cameron, and this is The Conduit. All right, y'all, it is March 9. I need a horn. It's Wednesday. Our show is moving to Wednesdays, not Monday anymore. Please schedule accordingly. Same bad time, same bad channel since Batman is the theme. Always glad to have this show. How are you doing, Matt and Katie?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Marwan.
Yes, it's a good Wednesday, Marwan. Thank you.
It is a good Wednesday. Now, I do have a few announcements that I do need to make really quickly. So before we get into the show, let me go ahead and do that. If you have alerts, then you probably know that we got a fog warning this morning. And you also know that our temperatures have been pretty low. So low, in fact, that the severe weather shelter is opening tonight. So it will be open tonight, okay? There are 4 severe weather shelters. If you know anyone or if you yourself need a ride, please give us a call, 360-373-3000 before 7 p.m. to arrange a ride. You can also get yourself text notifications by texting Kitsap SWS to 898-211. Standard message and data rates apply. You can also text STOP to opt out or help for help. And so, again, there are 4 shelters, one in Port Orchard at United Methodist Church, 725 Kitsap Street, Port Orchard, 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Silverdale United Methodist Church, 9982 Silverdale Way, Silverdale, 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Village Green Community Center, 26159 Delay Road Northeast, Kingston, 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. And Gateway Fellowship Church, 18901 8th Ave, Northeast Poulsbo, Washington, 98370, 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Guests must check in at all locations before 8 p.m. And please understand, we will pick you up in the morning and take you back where you were or where you need to go. So please don't let that be the reason that you don't come in from out of the cold tonight, okay? So just wanted to make sure that I made that announcement to everyone. And thank you to all the volunteers, because those are not paid staff that open up those shelters. Those are all volunteers. And so it takes a village. And so that's the county, all the wonderful volunteers, and then, of course, G2 and our drivers working to make sure this happens. And then all of the fine folks out there that, let people know and get them access to these resources. So thank you so much for that. But let's jump into our show. It is, we've missed 2 days, so we've gained some things. There's some other stuff I want to talk about today too, but we do want to touch in on the housing things. And so, Matt, how about you go first this time? Because usually we save you for last because you've got so much.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for doing that, Marwan. That for the driving for the severe weather shelter. I know that's an awesome program that has a ton of volunteer time, and we try to get the word out too and run through the county. And so thank you for doing that. That's a really cool resource. How many rides do you end up giving typically?
Unfortunately, not enough.
Yeah.
What happens is when we have the long cold spells, the rides really pick up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when it's kind of hit and miss like this, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, the shelter is open tonight.
Yeah.
It's not, unfortunately, a lot of time to let a lot of people know. And so
Yeah.
we end up maybe doing anywhere between 0 and maybe 4 rides, unfortunately. So it's really imperative to try to get that word out. So.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to the text, because I signed up for the texting, and wow, they're on top of it. You get all the message, all the addresses, all the times immediately when they open. And so just pushing that resource out, the Kitsap SWS, and you might not need it. But it's just a text. If you get free text, especially, you can help get the word out too. So.
And I think about our service providers. We work with so many clients, and we kind of look at our forecast for the week and try to plan accordingly. And so you think that this shelter can open up, just keep them in mind. If you want to call on their behalf and just say this person's over here, and I'm going to let them know, and kind of coordinate it. We don't mind. We just want to get them sheltered.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Marwan, for doing that for the community. That's really big. And yeah, I'll definitely I will let our team know in the last little bit of the day here to reach out to and let folks that are coming into Housing Solutions Center know that they can text you all for a ride if they want severe weather shelter. So we'll pass that along. Cool. Well, first, let me say thank you for the flexibility. The moving the times was my fault. I had some scheduling issues. My schedule changed. So thank you so much for the team, Marwan and Katie and Jill, for being flexible to move to Wednesday. So I like starting in the beginning of the week, but now we'll be right in the middle of the week. So I guess that'll be the new favorite day, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, Monday will still be the favorite day, but the show will still be the favorite show.
The show. Okay, there we go. So I got some good news and some bad news. So the good news is we did finish most of the data cleanup that we wanted to. So I feel confident with giving some waitlist numbers about kind of where we're at. The bad news is that the numbers are not great. So it's kind of a both and situation. So we've got both. There's always some good stuff, but there's definitely some numbers and performance that we wish were a little bit better, but we'll talk about the reasons for them. So right now, our current wait list is at 490 for first round folks. So this is folks that have not gotten any assistance in 2021 or 2022. That's what we mean by first round. 2020, we had a lot smaller amount, and some folks were able to get assistance there, but a lot less. So we're not counting 2020 when we say that. Then we're started the wait list for folks that are need more, have not maxed out their 15 months, and that's a second round wait list, and that's at 29. So we're all told we're right about at 520. And that's about exactly what we were before. So in November, I was looking through my notes from our last podcast that I announced, and it was at the end of November. I announced the wait list, and we were about at 520. And so we really haven't changed really all that much. We're almost exactly where we were before. And there's a number of factors for that. So
what are some of those factors, Matt?
Yeah. So what I was going to do is, I know we talked about the monthly performance, but to try to kind of give context for the wait list. So I dug into, got some numbers from November to February, right? Because that's when we haven't talked about the wait list. So did do something a little bit different. So just looking at that period from November to February, so 3 months, right? We were right at the end of the holidays. We started really ramping up, and we did process a lot of applications. But here's the problem: is the input. And that is the big issue that that's kind of out of all our control, that we knew was coming, but we, I think, still outpaced what we really thought. So from November to February, so in those 3 months, November 2021 to February 2022, we had 349 people apply and were added to the wait list. So that's 340. Then we had 177 added from our Keep It outreach partner, including our Buy in 4 outreach partners and our legal outreach partners. So all the partners that have priority referrals, either from the legal side or to help us achieve our racial equity goals. So they added, right? So total, what was added during that time was 526 applications were added from the end of November to February. So really December 1st to February. So December, January, and February, those 3 months. And so what we did, so we processed a lot of those applications, right? We processed most of those buy and for applications. So what, right? Because they have priority. So we processed 125 from the buy and fors, and that was $800,000. Our legal referrals during that time was 160, or sorry, the legal that we processed, they were little bit different from the referrals but actual processed. So now we're on what we've actually were able to get through our system. And so that was 160, 1.4 million. And then the wait list, we actually got 296 in that 3 months. So that's, almost $2.1 million. And so over 600 applications processed during that time.
Wow.
Now, remember, some of those are a little bit of duplicates, right? So if you're looking at just straight unduplicated, it kind of lowers it down to around 520. And so that's why we're not moving, right? Because we had about 526 added, and that's about the unduplicated count. So essentially what we did was keep pace with demand, which is why our wait list is almost exactly the same as when we talked last time. So we've ramped up, spending tremendously. And we've, the team is really, we dipped a little bit in February from what we thought, we would be, but we're still, at least over that million mark. And hopefully this month we'll get back up, over 1.5 million processed. But our goal of functional zero seems a little bit out of reach. That was really what we wanted to get at. So that means we're going to probably have to adjust, because it just doesn't, even with us firing on all cylinders, we're still just keeping up with demand, let alone getting on the wait list. So what definitely want to use this channel and our other kind of means to try to communicate is that might look a few different ways towards spend down. So what that might mean down the line is that we have to close if we think we have, because the wait list is still rather big, right? 490 first round, 29 second round. So what that might mean is that there might be a point where there's more money or more applications on the wait list than we potentially have money for. We're not there yet, but if we suspect we're getting close, we will have to shut down taking applications, period. And we will try to communicate as best we can when we see that coming, try to give folks notice, because that functional zero model would allow us to be very flexible, right? We would be able to process what comes in, and then we wouldn't have people sitting on wait lists, that we couldn't process. Unfortunately, we might not be there. So then we're going to have to try to solve this a different way, which is communication, and then potentially doing a shutdown early.
So now, Matt, I've got a ton of questions for you, because you rattled off a bunch of stuff. So
that's a lot. Yes. Yeah. Let's reel back. That's a lot of information.
So for the buy and fors, you said you processed 800,000, and how many applicants was that?
That was 125 duplicated. So meaning, right, that's just the total number of energy assistance. It's basically the total number of payments we've made, right, to utilities, to rents, gas, electric, for those clients. So 125 during that period from basically December, January, and February.
And so with basically 526 on the wait list now, you have folks that are coming in over, the priority folks from legal. And with that, so the people that were originally on the wait list, like let's say I was on this list, one of the first people.
Yeah.
Are they still in the same spot in there? Because you've got the preferred people that are kind of coming in. So
yeah,
maybe I'm first on the list, but then all these 100 or so come in. So now I'm 126. Is that how it works? And then do you have any idea for the people that are on the wait list, like what that dollar amount is, or have you not even looked at the applicants yet?
We do. I don't have that off the top of my head, but we do track that. I'll go in reverse order. So your last question was, yes, but we can only go off what people say they owe on their application, which oftentimes is not what they actually owe. For no fault to the tenant, it's just confusing, right? Because you might not have looked at your ledger yet, right? You might not know the late fees your landlord's added. Sometimes utilities are calculated per use. So meaning you may have not gotten all the utility charges that your landlord is charging you, especially if they meter it. So a lot of what the tenants owe is not always what they think they owe. So that's what that initial, and what we do is we put that placeholder in there for us to make estimates, right? So for this reason, if we do have to close off early. The last I checked, because we've got TREP 2.0 coming, we're not close yet, but I'm just seeing how far away we are from functional zero. So I want to start preparing folks and being, transparent of this might be coming, especially towards the end of the year, right? As we start to get through summer and into fall, depending on how quickly we're spending out. And what that means is there'll be a point when we won't take any new applications. We're going to continue to process all the way through till the funding's done, right? The reason I want to we would close it is because we don't want anyone that's been sitting on the wait list for months to all of a sudden say, no, we can't help you, right? If they qualify, we want to be able to help them. And we would just tell folks, all right, we're closing. And then maybe what that would look like, if we do feel confident that we would be able to help everyone, we might open back up. It might kind of be a choppy ending here. And our latest kind of budget projections is that we think if we keep spending at this rate, we'll be done with everything spring-ish next in 2023. That's kind of when we think some of this stuff, unless further money comes in. That's why, right, we're hesitant to fully say any date, because we don't know, what else Congress or the state, and there is other money coming through the state that might continue in some form or another. And as soon as we have firm details on that, we'll let folks know. But then back to your first question, which was what happens to people that have been sitting on the wait list and we have priority folks coming in? So it doesn't quite work like that. So what happens is people are on the wait list, and when the buy-in fours and the legal folks refer, there's not necessarily one grand wait list that the buy-in fours and the legal folks get to jump, and then everyone's working off that list. So what we have is we've divided our team up. So we have some of the team that's working with buy-in for and legal folks, and then we have some of the team that's working with wait list, and then some of the team works with both. So we're still always pulling from the wait list. So the folks that are on the wait list aren't just getting jumped every time a buy-in for legal comes through. It's really more of a bandwidth issue, right? So we keep about half-ish of the team working with the buy-in fours and our priority referral folks, and then we have the other half, and that's what we're always trying to balance, right? Is we try to want that to be somewhat equal. Sometimes lately we've tamped up the wait list to try to balance out, because we've been really trying to get this wait list down. But as you can see, there's just so many applications coming in. And so it's not necessarily that they'll continue to get bumped and just stay at the bottom. It's really how fast we can get through, because we're still pulling people in that order. And the buy-in fours are going right to a navigator, right? The analogy is, instead of bumping them on a priority pool, a better analogy is they're kind of just not waiting, right? They're not on a wait list, and they are getting access, right, to be able to be processed without waiting, whereas the general public needs to wait.
So let me ask this way,
Yeah.
because I know I've talked with some folks they're waiting, right? They're waiting patiently, but they're definitely nervous as time kind of keeps ticking, right?
Yeah.
And so if they have been on this wait list, from the beginning, and they're waiting for a second round of money, because I think that's kind of the main thing, right?
Yeah.
Pretty confident, the first round folks, you're going to get help. It's just, as soon as it gets done.
Yeah.
But if I'm a second rounder or a third rounder, or wherever I'm in that process, the concern is, months are passing by, and landlords are starting to come around and ask these questions. And I'm like, am I going to get help? Is it going to run out of money? What does this look like?
Yeah.
What is your kind of response to that? Because when you're kind of explaining it to us now, I think a lot of tenants are like, oh, I'm kind of nervous. I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah. It is really confusing, and I definitely empathize, and I know, and and it's a process. It's not easy to manage this, and I know it's not easy to navigate. We try to make it as easy as possible, but I definitely understand folks that are on the wait list now. And let me be clear: what I just talked about was for all the first round, right? The
Right.
second rounders are going to wait until, we get through, but there's a process we might not get through all the first round folks, right? So there is a possibility that some of the second round folks might not get assistance if we don't get through all the first round folks, right? Now, the contingency plan to that is our legal partners, right? Because they are referring folks that are actively being evicted. So that is the kind of priority access path if your landlord is actively evicting you, right? If you're gotten a 14-day notice and you go to DRC or Kitsap Legal Services representing you in a battle, or Northwest Justice Project, then they can refer you, and then we will, sir, now you're part of that priority kind of referral, right? But we're not doing that for everybody, because we really only want to prioritize the folks that are actually in the eviction process. The goal for Functional Zero was to be able to just serve anyone that needed it, right? Unfortunately, at least in the short term, it looks like we won't get there. So that is kind of the backstop and what we're telling folks is that we have all these partnerships in place, so that if the eviction process does get started, right, we should catch as many folks as we can through there. And like I said earlier, I haven't heard of a story, or we haven't had any feedback that someone kind of got all the way through and got evicted just because they couldn't get connected to us. We've got all those partners in place to connect to us. Now, the landlord might still evict because of other reasons that are outside our control, lease violations, right? Or, they are moving into the place or selling there's still ways you can get evicted, even if we're willing to pay and get you caught back up. But if payment is the only issue, we've been pretty successful about linking with all our legal partners and making those connections.
So just for clarity, for the 520 that are currently on the wait list,
Yeah.
it sounds like, and I know you can't say, obviously when folks come in, like you were saying, the amount that they owe could be more or could be less.
Yeah.
But does it look like there's funding for sure to fund those 520, and it's just a matter of time, and you may get to a point where you stop because you're not going to hit functional zero? Or am I kind of wrong there? Could it be that some of those 520 could end up not getting funding?
Great question. Everyone on the wait list right now, based off the estimate that we have for their rent, we can cover and more, right? We are confident that we will be able, otherwise this would be a different conversation. We'd be announcing that we're closing it. But yeah, we're confident right now. It's just something I want to prepare folks for, is that, and especially right now, if you are behind and haven't gotten on the wait list, please get on the wait list. Because there is a possibility that down the line we could have to close it because we are running out of money. Now, I don't foresee that happening in the next few months, at least, and definitely everyone on the wait list right now, if you qualify, you will get help for up to 15 months. But so yes, to answer your question, we are confident of our wait list right now and beyond. It's just something in the future, especially as it's looking like our goal of functional zero is not possible.
Right. So just to state it, right?
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, if I'm on this list, I want to know that I'm going to get funding,
Yep.
So if you're already on the list, you're going to get funding, or it's highly likely that you're going to get funding. There shouldn't be any issue that is there. If you are not on the wait list, you should get on the wait list as soon as possible. And I think that would be the way to kind of explain that and just kind of pull it all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only if you're on the wait list, the only reason you wouldn't get funding is if you're over income, right, or you don't qualify based off some other metric for the program. You didn't have a housing hardship, or there's an issue with your landlord, right, not accepting funds, or so there's some tangent issues that sometimes can crop up, but typically income is the biggest one of why people don't qualify for the program if you're over 50% area median income. But yes, as long as you qualify right now, yes, you will get funded.
And you mentioned that you look to screen people in anyway. You don't look to screen people out. So any way they can qualify, you do your best to screen them in. I had I don't want to turn this into an interview of Matt, but it's so interesting to hear you talking. So I think you've said by and for like 30 times at least. For those who don't know, like you're talking about you're working on them at the same time you're working on others and they don't have to wait. So is there other ways if you're in a true hardship and it's not just getting on a wait list, it's what organization should people be talking to and what is a by and for organization?
Fantastic question. Yeah, well, one, I really well said. That is our motto: is that we screen people in, not out. Right. Our goal is to fund folks. So thank you for making that point. And Marwan, do you want to talk a little about who the buy and for? I can talk about it, but you might be more qualified to talk about the who the buy and fors are and what they are and a little bit of the history.
Well, I can never remember the list, but what I will
Okay,
say
I'll help
about
you out with the list later.
what I'll say about the buy and fors is when eviction assistance came down, right? There's a lot of push on equity and equality, which is really important. And historically, not just here locally, but nationwide, it has been difficult to serve the BIPOC population. And so in the wisdom of commerce and the county and in KCR and others, they said, hey, we're going to try to do something about that. What we'll do is kind of like FUBU, for us, by us. We will reach out to those that actually serve the populations that are hard for us to reach or, systemically or historically have not been reached out to or hit their numbers. And we're going to have them come and get those people and bring them in, right? And that was to a great success. We actually covered those numbers probably like 5 or 6 months ago. And so I think maybe even for the Black population, we're about 4%, but we were hitting like 16 or 20%, somewhere really high there. So it was like 4 or 5 times the amount. And so it was a rousing success. And also, hopefully, going forward, that will help to build and bolster the relationship between KCR and clients that have historically had issues there. And there are a number of buy and fors that exist. And so I don't want to miss anyone, as G2 is also one of those. So I'll let Matt tell us who those buy and fors are.
Yeah, that was a great history, Marwan. So yeah, first let me say that, yeah, the buy and for organization, just like Marwan said, is by a community for a community, and we have 6 of them. And so we have Gather Together, Grow Together. We have Hope 360. We have Surviving Change. We have Foundation for Homeless Poverty Management. And then we have Mount Zion Partnering for Youth Achievement. And then we have Kitsap Immigrant Assistance Center. So there's 6 right now.
Yeah,
and it has been an incredible success. And yeah, Marwan's absolutely right. So as of I believe it was through the new year, so this is through December, our target was we wanted 5.1% of our applications processed to be Black or African American, and we hit 16.4%. And so we really blew away our target, and that definitely is a credit to prioritization. And that's how not all counties did that. What our county decided is every county had goals, right? Is that you had to serve the folks in your community, not just by the census percentage, but by the percentage that were in poverty, right? And the Black population, Latinx, Pacific Islander, Native American, right? These are all populations that have historically been underserved and are overrepresented in poverty. So those were our rough targets. Again, it's not perfect, and I think Marwan's talked about there's definitely criticisms of how they did that, but I think it was at least a step in the right direction, and it definitely helped, I think, bring a lot of us in the community together. And what Kitsap decided to do is, well, let's just prioritize. So we know we're going to have this giant wait list, but referrals from these organizations, right? We're going to make sure those get processed so we can make sure we're hitting our racial equity goals. And we've not just done that, but exceeded that. So that's a little bit of the history there.
Yeah, and then as we were saying in the previous show, also a few things. One, it's really important to be counted in that census, because if you're not counted, they don't have accurate numbers and they tend to go on the hard data. And they being decision makers, policy
Mhm.
makers. And the other thing is that you need to be an advocate and make your voice heard. So yeah, the black population may be 3 to 4% of Kitsap County, but the percentage that are living in poverty or living above the federal poverty line, which is woefully set too low, but are above that, but still really need help. And, no agencies know and they can't advocate for more funding and more assistance. So that, both of those things are really important to get involved and to empower your own community and all communities because we're all going to suffer together. We're all going to thrive together.
Mhm.
And so we want to be resilient. We don't want to just, in survival mode. So we want to push past that.
Yeah,
The other,
thank you for the.
oh,
Oh,
go ahead, Matt.
no, I was going to say thank you for the question, Katie. It's we have a bad habit, like a lot of industries, to throw around acronyms, right, and then not explain them. So thank you. I think it's
Yeah,
really
and
good.
and it seems like a really important initiative that will continue moving forward, but also adds a lot of value to my question of if you really do need help and you feel like you can't just go to KCR and fill out the online application, just be patient. These organizations sounds like you can go talk to them or talk to um, other organizations that will get you in the door to KCR as well to have that support while you're dealing with this waiting period.
Yeah, if we just talk about, several of those benefits, one, obviously with the eviction assistance program, you are getting priority by coming through a buy and four. But the six buy and fours do very different things. Kayak is working with our immigrant population. We do case management, we have transportation, uh, PYA through Mount Zion. They have youth programs, right, which is awesome. And then obviously, religious services, Surviving Change and Hope 360. They pretty much do everything, including funeral services. So, Deborah Jackson is pretty much a one stop for all things, for sure. And we have relationships with other organizations. So if you are scared, if you don't know how to navigate, what to say, who to talk to, how to fill out paperwork, we can assist in that. And so while we don't have the dollars, we can help, try to cut down those obstacles to get you to the help and the resources that you need. And that's one of the reasons why you see folks come onto the conduit instead of saying, "Hey, go call this number at KCR and talk to someone." They're actually coming to us. BHA is actually coming to us, and many others. And so that is the power in being connected to a buy-in for. And again, eviction assistance will be gone soon, but you may need other types of assistance, or you may have friend or family members that need assistance, weatherization, energy assistance. There's so many different things, and so we are always on you know, at the ready with the newest knowledge and how things change, right? Updating databases through KCR and BHA, which we talk about on a weekly basis, and how
Mhm.
that's going to work, courses and different opportunities. So the buy and force have that information, and so reach out, cultivate that relationship.
Is there a list of these organizations, like these main buy and fours somewhere?
Yeah, I have a list. Do you want me to you want me to email them to you, Katie?
Not just for me, but just could we post it? Like I could post it on our what? Like I wonder if it's posted on your website or is on the county website. I know they have partnerships directly with the county. Is that correct?
Yeah, so yeah, those organizations are on. We kind of have a one Keepa website that the county runs, and that has all the partners on there. Has Gather Go Together, Kayak, and the kind of logos, PYA, Foundation for Homeless Poverty Management. So they've got and Gather Together, Grow Together. So that's on the. I'll put that in the chat, and that's the Keepa website.
And
And
while Matt is typing that in the chat, I will let a secret loose. The conduit is in the middle of creating its website, and we intend to be a central storehouse of information, right? So it's not enough for everyone can't watch live. They may not go back and watch an old video, but they very well need a place where they can come to a centralized location and get a lot of this info. And since we are, right now, I would say, probably the most prominent, if not one of the only podcasts in Kitsap County that kind of does this kind of work in such a broad range of it, that it only made sense that we would become a storehouse and have calendars of events that were coming up for different organizations, right? It's not about G2. It's about all the resources that are here in Kitsap County. So coming soon, stay tuned.
That's exciting. So I had one other question, Matt.
Yeah.
When you say process, like this is many applications are being processed, these are in process. What can somebody expect from how long is this process? Once they come to the top of the wait list, they get a call. I know in Bremerton Housing Authority world, there's a lot of things that is expected out of the person after we call them up and say, we want to issue a voucher. We need to verify all this information, send us all this paperwork, fill out these forms, give you this orientation. Like it's a long process, multi-month process usually. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, we've learned a lot more about how BHA works, because we typically don't run our assistance programs like this, right, through a wait list. So it's very difficult. I have all the empathy in the world for you all on the housing choice voucher list and managing that many names, and it's very difficult to do. So similar to how BHA works is when you get on the wait list, you're just on the wait list. You're not qualified for the program yet, right? We give you a letter of attestation saying that you've applied, so you can take that to the landlord and you have that, right, as a confirmation that you've applied. If you've applied online, we'll send that to you digitally via PandaDocs. That's our kind of file transfer service. But you do have to wait till your name comes up on the wait list in order for us to then look at your case, qualify. Now, I think right now we've paired it. We've really done everything we can to make that process go as fast as we can. And so that process can take as little as a few days. Probably the average is a week, because we don't have to have all the documents and requirements that BHA does is for a housing choice voucher. So especially we talked about, I think 2 times ago, the fact-based proxy. So if you're in certain zip codes, we can just automatically qualify you. And then, you can self-certify certain pieces, like if you were affected by COVID or how you were affected. And then the other piece is just, are you behind on rent or behind on utilities, right? Of housing vulnerability or housing risk. And that's pretty easy to show if you're actually behind, right? Because there's most folks, are applying for this because they're behind on rent or behind on utility bills. So as long as we have those 3 pieces, those are the main pillars of qualification. Now there's a few other, we try to get a lease, but we usually help the client try to get that from the landlord. We try to get a ledger if we can. And then we do a parcel search to make sure we're actually paying the landlord, and to make sure that, there's some hurdles there, to make sure we're paying the right person, and to make sure that tenant actually gets their rent paid for. So there's a few other things, but as far as the client qualifying go, it's pretty minimal, especially if they're in the fact-based proxy. So that allows us to go pretty quick. So I would say at this point, most of the delays are with the landlord, right? Because we're trying to figure out, we got to work. We've got 15 months maximum, right? So and utility, if they get a utility assistance outside of a rent assistance month, that counts as a month of assistance. So it's a little bit complicated of figuring out what's the best way to assist you. That's just kind of how the grant works. But that's really the delay right now, is more with landlords and the property managers and getting that paperwork, because the landlords, they usually have questions because they have to sign to additional protections. We've talked about that in past podcasts, but essentially if the tenant can stay there another 6 months, even if their lease is ending. So they're signing that they'll at least allow them to stay there 6 months, as long as they pay the rent and follow the lease. And the landlord also can't raise rent additionally during that time. So there's some extra protections for the tenant if the landlord takes this money. So landlords sometimes have questions about that, and that's some of the delays that we're having. But it can, if especially the landlord's really engaged, it can go really quickly once they come up on the list and we work with them. But then our fiscal team, that takes, typically 3 weeks to a month by the time we move it through all the data. Our data team has to compile the statistics that they need, and then we send it up to our fiscal team, and they need time to actually cut a check, do their double check. So it still is a process, and it can take 3 or 4 months. From the time they first get on the wait list, it can be 3-4 months by the time the landlord has a check in hand, just because of the waiting ahead time. Even if we can move quickly, right, we still have to go through other systems, and part of it is, we've ramped up so much, right? We have these systems, that weren't really designed to spend, $2 million a month, right? And now we're doing that, and so we've had to ramp up really quickly.
Well, thank you. And it sounds like even if we had the TRAP 2.0 and you got additional funding, you didn't have to close the wait list and keep adding. It still might not speed up the work. The work is still going to be there.
Yeah, and that's what. So we TRAP 2.0 is coming. We know we're getting more money, and I want to be clear: the wait list is not closing. I just want to let people know that that's a possibility down the line. But we anticipate it being open through summer, and we'll kind of look in fall. But yes, we are going to keep allowing people onto the wait list, and we're going to keep processing, hopefully at this pace or more. But it's just, you're right, is that if we keep getting this amount of people on the wait list, right, then we're not going to make headway. So you're exactly right. So we've talked about some other ways to try to smooth things and move faster, and maybe hire even more folks. But you're right, is like if the demand, if the influx still stays the same, and this is what our new processing power is, you're right, we're not going to get that wait list lower. Now, when I say lower, that doesn't, like Marwan, what you were saying, that doesn't mean that people are frozen. It just means that the overall number, we're still pulling people off the top. We're still, the line is still moving. It's just, when I say lower, I mean the overall wait list, not that the people individually are not moving. It's our number on the wait list, right? And so that's what I mean by staying static. Not that the wait list, the line is still moving, it's just the length of the line. So
absolutely. So, we were talking about folks that are currently on the wait list, and I know at the end of the year and then the beginning of the year, optimistically, they would have already received help, right?
Yep.
And so you've explained all the reasons why, the wait list is how it is.
Yep.
And so many times clients will, go to the landlord and say, hey, we're on the list, everything's good, we're just waiting. So what advice can you give to clients in their communication with their landlords, because it has kind of just dragging on a little bit?
Yeah, I think give them our, sometimes we always encourage folks to give that letter of attestation, right? If you didn't get that, you can come back down, or we can email you another one. But everyone should get a letter of attestation saying that they applied for the wait list, right? That they're on the wait list, and they can give that to your landlord and be like, "Hey, I did my," because there's nothing that they can do at that point other than wait. And so the tenant has done their part, right? And we hope landlords will honor that. And some of the landlords still have questions, so you can give them Housing Solution Center's number, and our front desk can try to answer and confirm whether they're on the wait list. If there's issues, they can always forward to Carla, who's the manager, and have them talk with Carla. So that's 360-473-2035. That's the Housing Solution Center. So landlords can call if they have questions, and we can try to answer. We are experiencing a high call volume, so it might take up to 2 days to get back, but we're usually not going beyond that right now of getting a call back. So that would be the next thing, is if the landlord wants to understand the process, because like I said, it's very confusing. We talk a lot about it, but a landlord might only see that letter of attestation and are very confused about what's happening, especially if they haven't worked with the program. And then the last piece for the tenant is, if that landlord does start the eviction process, just make sure, okay, they're going to give you a 14-day notice. You're going to go to DRC, right? let DRC, when you get to DRC and they start that process, let them know, hey, I'm on the wait list already, right? I'm just waiting. And then DRC can, when they make that referral to us, we know we can just pull them right off the wait list and start working with them.
So would it be helpful if they have, let's say, the landlord's email, to make sure that they have that letter of attestation maybe scanned in, and they can email the landlord and the worker at KCR and just say, hey, just to follow up, here is the letter of attestation. We are on the wait list, and if Bob, the landlord, has any questions, you can answer them here. I mean, just a way to kind of tie it in and just keep that communication going. Is that helpful, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think, well, Marwan, having read receipts, right, is always nice for, especially if stuff starts going south. I think that's a wonderful idea to communicate that. Just to be clear, though, when they're on the wait list, they don't have a navigator yet, right? They're
Okay.
just on the wait list because the navigators are working with folks that they pull off and then qualifying them. So they don't necessarily have someone assigned to their case yet. That's why we always try to refer the landlords to the front desk, and then if the front desk can't handle it, then a manager will try to answer the questions that the landlord has.
So then email with the attachment with the number to the front desk for KCR.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely put the front desk number on there that we just posted, and say, hey, if you have any questions, give KCR a call. But I think that's a fantastic idea of how to communicate. We send, if you applied via online, we'll send the letter of attestation via Panda Docs. You can forward that to your landlord. You can allow them to see that document. So that's one option too. Or you can download it and send it in a separate email, however is easiest. But I think that's a fantastic idea.
And I know there's a lot of anxiety around waiting, right? The tenant has anxiety on when their rent is going to be paid. The landlord definitely has anxiety when they're going to receive funding. And, a couple weeks goes by and it seems like a couple months to both parties. And just a good way to keep that communication going and try to, tamper down the anxiety and the stress that starts to build up.
And let me be clear, Marwan, if the tenant puts the landlord's email address, which we do ask for, sometimes tenants don't know it, but if they do put it, when we'll email the landlord the letter of attestation automatically so that they see it. So if the tenants do put that, we'll do that work for them. We have no problem. It's just usually sometimes tenants don't know it's not there. So then we just send it to the tenant. And same with the letter of pledge. Once everything is all signed and they're qualified, we'll send the letter of pledge to the landlord and to the tenant, so that to try to help folks and get everyone on the same page.
Yeah, my hope is just having that open dialogue and communication will help the landlord kind of stave off that impatience of saying, hey, you know what, this looks like this isn't going to happen. Let me go ahead and start with the eviction proceedings.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I like that. And then if they do start the eviction proceedings, you talked about all the things that they can do at that point in time.
Yeah.
Which also accelerates the process from this side also, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, we pretty much got through all of my KEPA. We got numbers. I want to talk about the wait list, talked about that. My last update is I've mentioned before, those contracts are finally starting to come through, but we're going to have a pretty large rapid rehousing expansion. So now taking off our KEPA, our eviction prevention, putting back on our homeless services cap. So this program is only for folks that are experiencing homelessness, that are in a shelter, in a transitional program, or are exiting the hospital or jail and were homeless before, right? Exiting a system of care and don't have anywhere to go, or fleeing domestic violence. So that's the folks that are in this category. This is the same program we use for folks that have housing choice vouchers that are experiencing homelessness and need just moving cost to get into a place. So it's the same program. But that's just the move-in only side. But what we are going to start opening up is 6 months. And because we'll have a good amount of funds, and we're still training up staff, so we're not quite ready yet. But Marwan will probably, and I'll probably want to ask you for help of reaching out to the Buy-in For partners. We're going to be reaching out to anyone, because we're going to need help for folks to find, just like the Bremerton Housing Authority did for the emergency housing vouchers. We kind of, for folks that are working with this population, if you can help find a house for them, we have the funds. We just lack the bandwidth to help them find housing. So a similar approach. It'll be probably we'll be able to probably help a little bit more people than the emergency housing voucher. Unfortunately, ours doesn't last as long as the emergency housing vouchers were amazing. Our standard program is 6 months of assistance, but that is coming. We'll be continuing to talk more about that. I definitely want to talk about that for the weeks to come, and we'll be starting to reach out to some of the partners and letting folks know that, hey, we've got some resources that we want to spend, and there's a few deadlines. The first one is September, so we got to spend almost $1 million by September. And then the next big chunk needs to be spent by June of 2023. So we have a little bit longer for that one, but the September deadline is coming, right? September is going to be here before we know it. And I really don't want to send any money back to the Fed. I want to make sure we get all that spent in Kitsap. So we're going to need some help to do it.
All right. Well, we're all in on helping for that. Let's spend that money. We got 6 months for sure. So, Katie, what do you got? Because I want to, once you go, then I've got some serious questions that I want to ask the both of you that I think will be very helpful for everyone listening.
I don't have as many updates as Matt as usual, but we always have a lot of questions for Matt, so I feel like it's a group update when Matt
I love
gives his updates. So, for one, we just issued we're partnering with DCYF, Olive Crest, and the county to issue foster youth to independence, which we're calling the FYI program vouchers. And we're finally issuing the first 3 or 4, I think, which really a lot of help from our partners, especially Olive Crest. What they do is anybody aging out of foster care, 18 to 24 years old, they're finding landlords, finding units, finding properties, anybody interested in housing these youth and walking them through the voucher process. And we're starting to issue those finally. And I can't remember the amount we have. I think we have about 25 to do, but without the help of these partners, this wouldn't happen. So I just want to shout out to that program. It's really exciting because it's a very vulnerable population, never having, to pay for their own house or learn about renting or anything. And they're really having their hands held during this process to be successful. So the self-sufficiency is really key, and what a great program. So again, this is DCYF, the county, Olive Crest, and it's in partnership for the FYI program. So these are vouchers specifically for the youth aging out of foster care from 18 to 24. But it's an exciting program. And I also wanted to share, actually, that we're talking about kind of jobs and how the stuff going on and all the community outreach. And we actually have a lot of jobs listed right now. We have 6 jobs open for applications right now on our website.
At the Bremerton Housing Authority?
Yep. Ooh. We have a community resource coordinator. We have a family self-sufficiency special programs coordinator, a finance director, janitor, contract specialist, senior IT person, or a big range of available positions that if anybody's interested in joining Bremerton Housing Authority, please go to our website and apply, because there's a lot of good opportunities, especially in the community resource programs, the self-sufficiency programs. It's called our Community Connections Team, and they help our residents at our properties, and they help make sure that there's programs in place to, help people, again, thrive, not just survive, but thrive in their homes and become self-sufficient. So those are our programs. And honestly, it's an exciting time for Bremerton Housing Authority. So.
All right, I love it. And I am navigating to the BHA website just so you can see how to click through there, and you'll see the Community Resource Coordinator, the Family Self-Sufficiency Special Programs Coordinator, Finance Director, Janitor, PBCA Contract Specialist, which sounds really interesting, and the Senior IT Business Applications Specialist. So they're all right there. And the PBCA Contract Specialist actually has 2 positions open. To note. So you can click on there and get information and details about what they're looking for and what you would be doing, the benefits, all that good stuff there. So dust off that cover letter and resume, get it updated, and go ahead and come on down,
Yeah.
and use your knowledge, skills, and abilities for sure.
And you can apply directly at the bottom of those pages. So it's an online application.
Oh, look at that. Bam. Or refer to a friend. So you may know someone. I love this feature, right? So it's like,
Hmm.
boom, hit that. I know a perfect person for this. Boom, 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 and send.
Yeah.
So yeah, please check that out. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, KCR still has some opportunities available too. Is that correct, Matt?
Oh yeah, yeah. We've got two navigator positions still open right now on the HSC side, but yes, we do.
All right. So, and that brings me to our next conversation, why I wanted to come here. But you can go ahead and click on the three lines here. And if you scroll down, you'll see, where are we at here? Employment, did I pass it? Career opportunities. Okay. And here are the career opportunities here. Talks about, again, the employment or employee benefits, which are fantastic. And then here are the current openings. Business and financial education program coordinator, child care provider, client engagement specialist, early head start home visitor. Ooh, things are opening back up, which is awesome. Energy information specialist, head start family advocate. Oh,
Wow.
there's a ton of stuff here, right? Substitute classroom assistant, housing solutions center navigator, housing outreach coordinator, head start teacher. So, and head start family advocate. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. And again, just like the other one, you can click in, get all of the information. You can apply using LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account, you can create one of those or use your Indeed resume. And little secret here, I was working with the Navy last year, and one of the things that we were advising and helping spouses and those that were separating or retiring from the military was to create a LinkedIn. So we're actually teaching them how to create a LinkedIn, what to include in their LinkedIn, how to update their resume and their cover letter, and getting them ready to transition from the military world into the civilian world. And so that's very important. Whether they were going to stay here or if they were going to go back home or go and move somewhere else. So trying to get everyone very prepared. So you definitely want to put your best foot forward for sure, and WorkSource and many other resources can help you to do that.
Can I plug two things real quick, Marwan?
Please do, always.
So I want to connect all the dots, but Katie, the DCYF program, we're one of the partners as well because we're doing the move-in costs
Well,
with
thank
rapid
you,
rehousing
KCR.
program.
Oh my, I was like, I wonder if I missed a partner. So thank you.
No, it's
Um,
totally fine. I just want to connect the dots so that people, because
yeah.
that's part of what we're using the rapid rehousing program for, is with this program. And we actually, some of the clients are actually currently experiencing homelessness. So we're actually doing a little bit of the case management help too, and assisting Olive Crest.
It's an
Olive
amazing
Crest,
program that takes a lot of partners to make it work, just to make sure that they thrive. And I'm excited.
it is, and you all are doing a fantastic job, and Olive Crest is doing a fantastic. This program, I think, is a really exciting pilot and doing a lot of good work. And then Marwan, on the other side of the coin, is the jobs. Is we have, I almost forgot, you scrolled through it, but it was the client engagement specialist. It's a front desk position, but we definitely encourage a lot of folks. It's a great way to get social service experience. You
Mhm.
learn a lot about the different programs, and we have, I think, of the last three client engagement specialists, they're all advancing in the organization right now, whether on the navigator track or on the data track or on the case management track. We actually have the past three went to three different teams: data, case management, and navigator work, and have really gained a ton of experience. And it's really a great place to start if you don't have any experience in social services, but just want to dip your toe. We love promoting and growing folks from within, so I want to encourage folks to apply. And we're preference for folks that are bilingual, especially Spanish. So we definitely prefer folks, even if you feel like you don't have a strong resume, if you are bilingual, please apply, because it is really helpful and a skill that really, really helps serve our Spanish speaking clients.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So now this is going to be for the both of you, and I'm going to use KCR's website to have this conversation. But as we all know, we are there's some serious issues going on globally right now, and with that, the president has now what is it? What the word escapes me right now, but basically banned oil from Russia, right?
Mhm.
And we already see that our gas prices are already increasing. We have inflation, and we have a lot of uncertainty, right? And we're still in COVID, and we're definitely still feeling the effects of COVID, and we will for a while to come. And so this is a there's no good time, but this is a horrible time for this to happen for many of the people that we serve. And so things like energy assistance, all types of different resources are very important right now as gas prices continue to rise. I think I heard $6.50 in LA and five something in Oregon. So it's making its way up here and it's increasing. And it's tough. And we have a lot of folks that don't go to the pump and fill their tank up. They may be putting in $5 to get to the next place and trying to figure it out when they get to the one after that. And so as this continues to increase and things get harder and harder, and we think about housing, right? Everything is still open and all the damage that's been done because of COVID. I don't think a moratorium is going to come back in place, so evictions will continue to happen. They are happening, and so I think it's going to get really hard for a lot of our folks, or harder. And so I just wanted to talk with the two of you and just get your perspective and your insight. And Matt, if you can kind of talk about the energy assistance and some of the other programs that KCR has to help to try to buffer, what folks are going to face as these challenges increase.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right, and I do. It hurts to see the pump that high, especially for folks, especially in our county where sometimes you need a car to get to work because it's not on a bus line, right? Bus transportation is somewhat limited. Kitsap Transit does a great job, but there's still just a lot of times you need the gas, and I think there's, the straightforward when you're a part of one of our case managed programs, we can sometimes help with gas, but that's a limited number of people, right? That's if you're being case managed by us. We don't have that just open to the general public, but that's some areas where we're able to help with gas. I know Gary, if you're working with him in his veterans program, he can do gas sometimes, but the big piece is you're right, is helping with the big way we can help is with rent and offsetting other costs, right? Especially utilities, and we know we're coming out of winter; it's still cold, and so we have two ways to help with utilities. We have our energy department, which is kind of the standard way, but pre-pandemic, that we helped with energy assistance, right? They help with electric, traditionally heating of the home, right? Sometimes they can help with other gas, but the main piece is electric, and they work with PSE, and so that process, it's a little tedious, and it sometimes can take some time, but they do help low income folks, and they've been doing it for a long time, and they help a lot of people, and they work really, really hard. So that's one avenue at KCR. The other avenue is the KEPA program. And they have the energy department might have a little less weight, but the KEPA program is probably a tad easier, because as long as you qualify, you give us the bill, our team will work and get the ledger. So there's two pathways that each kind of have their pros and cons. You'll probably wait a little bit longer if you go the KEPA route right now, because that program can pay for bills, utilities, but the energy department gets you a little bit faster. They still have a wait too right now, but it's probably a little bit more documentation to get energy assistance. So either way, you can do both simultaneously. You don't have to. The only thing is we don't double up on a bill, but we'll check that internally, because that's why we get the ledger, to the current ledger, to see how much you owe. So you're not penalized. Like if you've got light heat assistance through our energy department, and you still need help, you can come and get KEPA as well. So we're not limiting folks to just one program or the other. It's only limited within the program limitations themselves.
Absolutely. Katie, what are your thoughts on how folks are going to be impacted by what's going on?
Um, I think it's kind of the same scenarios as we're all facing with. We have rental assistance money. We even have a KEPA program at Bremerton Housing Authority for our current residents, for those who are still behind on rent. We still have supplemental, you know, rental assistance. But a lot of these programs are limited to if we can provide things like immediate assistance, because it does take a while to process. I was actually just while Matt was talking, I was searching, and the DSHS office, and applying for the TANF and the SNAPS programs might be an option, especially with gas prices so high. I don't know much about it. I do know that there are assistance programs specifically more for having cash on hand that I think would be valuable to look into. Um, just because of the regulations we're under, supporting the immediate need for cash is not something we normally do. So I know it's a burden, right? And it's a burden to say, well, I need to use my money for my rent or I'll get evicted, but I also right now need to get somewhere, or I need to get food, or and so it that's a tough situation to be in. And I empathize so much with it, and I don't know if there's an answer. It's like we can try to apply, we can try to do all these things, but it could be a waiting game, especially during COVID when everything seems to be taking a lot longer to process, or maybe offices aren't open still. I'm hoping with the mask mandate that these offices are going to come up again and be available to walk in, because I think that will really help. Again, calling to gather together, grow together, getting transportation to the SH office, like just doing things like that to connect the resources without spending money on gas, which I know you have a transportation service, so it might be helpful in that. And again, these are just ideas, but I think for the immediate cash, I really think that's what we need to do first.
And to that end, things like carpooling, like, being intentional on when you go somewhere, what you do, try to get as much done as you can. Buddy up with folks, as I was saying before. The bus service doesn't run on Sundays, so that's tough. And on weekends or during weekdays, the buses stop running pretty early. So if you've got a job out at Applebee's and you're getting off and there's no transportation, that makes it tough. And so you have to budget accordingly. But this will be a shock, and it's going to feel pretty immediate and overnight. So this isn't a crab in a pot of boiling water. This shock is going to be pretty immediate. And it really kind of goes to another question. If I circle back, Matt, is while people are waiting on or eviction assistance, whether they are first rounders or second rounders or getting ready to apply for the first time, I assert that folks need to be proactive. And what's next? What's beyond that, right?
Yeah.
That program is going to end at some point in time. So, what are some of the things that people can do? I think reinforcing those options are important. Maybe going to school, retraining for another job, work source. There was DSHS has a program there at the bottom. Work first. I saw on your website, let me just pull this back up so people can see, that there was an employment assistance here in the yellow on the left-hand side. There's financial education. KCR has the best program for you entrepreneurs, which is a great way to create either supplemental income or, go into a whole nother thing. So you may have, something that somebody wants, whether it's a product or a service. And so it's time to go ahead and jump in and do that. And then with KCR, which has been really fantastic in the way that they're trying to bring folks into employment, is saying, hey, you know what? You don't necessarily have to have all the education and all the experience, you know, have a willing heart and have some of those skills that are transferable. We can work with you and get you in there. So Sarah Knox says our employment and training department at KCR offers gas vouchers to those in our program who are seeking jobs. Super easy to apply for our program. So that is from shout out to Sarah there. Appreciate you putting that in the chat there. So again, kind of your thoughts, both of you, on that. What are some things that folks should be thinking about during this time of extended uncertainty? We thought we were just going to be dealing with, the end of mask and kind of being endemic for this pandemic, but now we've got this on top of it, and it's just getting worse.
Well, yeah. First, shout out to Sarah Knox from our employment training team. They do a lot of good work out there. So that's awesome that she's listening in, and our they really do work hard to try to get people employed and case manage and try to help sometimes interview close or gas, right, removing those barriers to help people find employment. But Marwano, we've talked before, but you're absolutely right. It's especially if you are able to get assistance, this we do imagine this assistance ending in the spring of 2023 or huge reductions. And so I think the a good strategy is if, all right, you did get some help and you can then move and you got a little bit of time, is what is that education, right, to help increase income, right? Is it working on whatever barriers, maybe credit, or you have an eviction on your record, or you need to pay off some debt, or on the housing piece, we can't stress it enough, is getting on lists, right? Bremerton Housing Authority. And Katie, I'm so sorry that when I was listing the Keepa partners, it just jogged my memory. Yeah, you and Housing Kitsap and Coffee Oasis are distribution partners. So I'm sorry I didn't give you all a shout out earlier.
No, it's just very limited. Like
Yeah.
and it is, if you are a voucher holder or a resident, you do have access to our Keepa program as well. So.
Yeah, but also just to really plug Bremerton Housing Authority and Housing Kitsap waitlist, right? Getting on the waitlist because if there's not a long-term plan, getting on those wait lists, that could be to subsidize the housing, right? So that you are able to afford. And those wait lists take time. Sometimes they can take years, but you might as well start that clock, right? And I think that's really, really powerful to get on. And that's something that we're all working to expand, but at least in the meantime, because we have limited stock, it takes time to get through those lists. But if you start now, right, that's less time that you have to wait later. And I don't know if you wanted to say anything to that, but unfortunately, Marwan, I do have to run. I've got to get some blood drawn at the dock. So I will. It has been
Oh
such
no.
a pleasure and
Well,
always.
we're at the end, so we can wrap it here if you got like 2 minutes. Uh, you know, Katie, take us out with some of the things that they might do, and just be proactive.
Well, to your point, I know it's scary. It's scary to think about budgeting, what Marwan suggested, budgeting and thinking ahead and really being intentional. So reaching out to the partners that are working, the buy and for partners, the ones who want to help, this is the time to reach out to get other support in these more difficult processes like you might have not done before, like doing a budget, the financial education pieces. And the last thing is, I need to get with Lori Reisinger, because Ready to Rent training, we're going to talk about how to talk to your creditors and how to really be prepared to rent long term. So all the education is really important, but also it's scary, and acknowledging that we know it's scary, and really reaching out to the partners now to say, hey, I'm scared. Can you help guide me to the next step?
Absolutely. Goodwill has training classes in computer literacy. I can tell you New Horizon Ministries is going to be opening a computer lab at their location, which is right above West Sound Treatment, right there across from the bus terminal. So lots of good things there. It's a partnership with G2, as we will be setting up our computers at the church. So that accessibility, things are opening back up and things are coming in. Please be proactive. Use all of your resources. There's so many great resources here in Kitsap County. We work together very well. We're here to serve you and try to make your life a lot easier. These are uncertain times. We don't know how long it's going to be this way. It is time, and many of the things that we need to do take time. It's a process. So please do that. Keep your head up. Stay positive. We're here for you. We appreciate you. As always, Katie and Matt, I'm so very thankful for you coming on and spending time with us. So shout out to BHA and to KCR. And please do put a note. Our new show time is Wednesday, same time, 3 p.m. So for Matt and Katie, I am Marwan. This is The Conduit. We'll see you next time, everyone.